out of YouTube jail. It is Thursday, March 11th. And I've actually been out of YouTube jail for a little over a week. But I've been away. So I haven't really posted even for about two weeks probably. The family and I took a trip down south to Hot Springs, Arkansas for my father-in-law's funeral. And since we will not get on a plane and subject ourselves to nose rapes and potential quarantine, whether or not that's going on here within the States or not, why take that chance? I do know tests are, as per someone, friend of mine that just got back from Florida. So we drove, and if you don't know, New Jersey to Arkansas is about a 20-hour drive. So we split it up into 2 days each way. So we spent about 4 days on the road up and back, 40 hours total, going through, you know, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, Tennessee, down to Arkansas. And some of the things I am going to talk about, whether or not that is a threat to people's freedoms and his requirement of another strike because someone's speaking of his experience and knowledge, trying to encourage others to do so, well, we'll find out, won't we? But really, I am aware, you know, if you watch this channel, that you are aware, I should say, that up here I bitch and complain a lot about the stupidity of the Boba Fett look. And the difference up here that I've noticed, however, is if you try to go in to a place of business up here, you will be told by some employee to subject yourself to the subjugation mask. So what I've noticed going down south, probably started around Maryland, is no one fucking bothers you if you go in without a mask. People go in with masks all the way down, you know. But if you don't, no one says a word. No one looks at you fucked up. I mean, maybe some of the people do that are sitting there all... But I'm talking about the employees. They're friendly. They're not in any way rude because you're not. And that, of course, you know, took us over a length of 4 days through several states. Not one place, including the church for the funeral service, who, you know, we were told we need to wear them by the family. And upon getting there, the pastor immediately said, you know, taking mine off if you're comfortable, you know. Well, I didn't even have one, so I was comfortable. And, however, you know, most people did wear it. The exception of my immediate family, I'd say only maybe 2 or 3 people within our, you know, family group took it off, while the rest of everyone else wore it. And then all, of course, came back to the house and we all hugged and kissed each other. Hey, you know, it was fucking... Oh, you know, the contradictory thought patterns are just, I don't know, man. You know, and then, of course, we blew out. It was also my father-in-law's birthday, would have been his 83rd birthday on that day of his service. So there was a birthday cake, and we blew out all the candles, and everybody ate the cake. Didn't seem to have a problem with that. However, upon going out into the street or somewhere, they felt the need to. So, you know, needless to say, in talking about the excursion, I'm going to try to speak generally as to protect the innocent. And by the innocent, I mean me. Protect me from hearing any bullshit from anyone about anything I fucking say. So I'm only really going to talk about positive aspects. And one of them was the psychological difference in knowing You could walk into any store, use the bathroom, buy food, shop, pick up, cigarettes, whatever, without subjugating yourself to that, without doing something that you, as your own decision-making body, has come across to know that is harmful to yourself. So without having to go in and worry about having to argue with anybody or hear any shit, it's just a different psychological feeling. But however, the thing I really noticed, because here, people just throw that shit on. And you've heard me say that, They put it on the car, they straighten it, they got their logo showing, their favorite football team, whatever. It's a fashion statement. And I'm not saying that's any different down south. But I'm saying it's more of it's become a subconscious behavior more here. So I thought, upon going into places of business as this requirement, However, most people up here do not wear it any other time. When they get together, when they talk as neighbors, when they walk through the woods, when they ride their bikes, when they play basketball, when they play sports, when they get together, they drive in the car. For the most part, where I am, most people do not do not have that on. Only when going into businesses. Now, the difference between going further down south, like I said, starting around Maryland or so, and I know places like Mississippi, and we were told even Tennessee, have lifted some of these bans, these masked bans. What I've noticed is that people do put it on, even when they don't have to, and in greater numbers. Walking around one of the nights, the night of the, after the service, we went to dinner at one of my father-in-law's favorite restaurants, which is, if you don't know Hot Springs, Arkansas, it's got a little strip and stores and bars and stuff. Kind of a small town, country city environment, And, the bars are open, people sit out, smoke cigarettes and stuff. Have some live music playing, which was fabulous. And the people walking all around, mostly, I would say in their 20s and 30s, but all different ages. Every fucking one of them, mostly every one of them had masks on walking the streets, which you just don't see here. And they would go in to the place of business with it on. Then they would sit down and take it off, and then they would have all this interaction. They'd get up, have a few beers, throw all this interaction, and then when they'd go to leave, they'd put it back on, walk out, and then go to the next place of business while keeping it on. Now, not everyone did that, but overwhelmingly, most people I noticed, including many of the people I was with in the family. But this is kind of what I wanted to talk about, and it's, in my opinion, a positive story, so I'm going to tell it. Whether or not it's something that will piss someone off who sees it, I'm not really interested, because I could say a lot more about the negative aspects of this trip. But this was a positive one, in my opinion. Not many people were warmed up to hear alternative, opinions on this nonsense. But one person was my nephew. He's in his mid to late 20s, married, not a kid. And upon seeing me and my family without the garbage, he too removed his every time, and so did his wife, every time we were out, where I guess he would normally be wearing, and not want to. So in noticing this, I had a conversation with him, saw interest in understanding and hearing more about what I thought of everything, and his moral fiber was lining up to the understanding of our rights, our Constitution, and human rights in general, over top of politics and divide and rule nonsense and miracle jabs and all that stuff, all that division. So I saw a spark there, and we had a good conversation. So later that night, after we were at dinner, and dinner was over, kind of walking the strip, and I come across this band, they're acoustic, two dudes playing live music. Anybody who's watched this channel or knows me knows that I love my fucking live music. And I miss it, you know, tremendously. I haven't seen a live instrument played or a note sung since December of 2019 when I went to see those young kids that were playing at my corner bar up in Philly that I actually recorded and put some out on Periscope, which is gone now. Although I do still have my videos of it. But, you know, prior to that, if you're talking arena, you're talking that summer of 2019, where my wife and I went to see Nickelback with some friends. And then a little while before that, my son and I went to see Iron Maiden in Philly. And I miss it, you know. So, there these two dudes are, they're jamming out, right? Dude's got a great voice, so I'm standing there in the corner having a cigarette watching. Everybody comes out, you know, from the meal. And my daughter stops. She's like, what you doing? You know, I'm like, you know, live music, man. I said, I'm really thinking about want to go in and sit down and have another beer, you know? So she's like, well, I'll go in with you, you know? So my wife and son and I'm walking back. What are you doing? I tell them. They're like, well, we'll go in, you know? So we go in. She texts everyone and says, you know, we're going to hang here a bit. Well, my nephew and his wife text back and say, we're coming back. We want to hang, you know? So I had, you know, time to really talk to him about things and to really kind of help him to know it's okay to come to his own conclusions. He doesn't have to accept things that he knows isn't right, that makes no sense, just to go along to get along, and where that can lead and will lead. You know, they want to have a baby. They're not for getting the miracle jab. They're well aware of actual problems that could go wrong. And if you delve into the actual understanding of their own papers, you'll see that to be the case. And it's a decision they're allowed to make. They're allowed to make, you know, whether or not you think so, whether or not other people are going to think so, or whether or not other people are going to try to force them to do it. And it's the decision that most people would agree is the most intrusive on their own body. So it's the one thing that I said and have said from the beginning that will be the decision maker as far as whether freedom lives or dies, whether my body, my choice is actually a real thing, or just some nonsensical propaganda that people will say for one issue, but on the other, they'll deny it and tell themselves that they're virtuous people. You wonder if those people are actually going to wring their fucking heads together and bang it into something and maybe come to, you know? But as I've said before, the people that are going to make most of the difference are these people like my nephew, who feel a certain way, and for whatever reason, fear, you know, his job is actually in jeopardy due to the policies of whatever, you know, the government is doing to his industry right now. So all of these personal feelings that he has a right to express and feel. And without, as I've said before on here, without other people seeing other people do these things, most people will capitulate and go along to get along. It's going to take the people speaking out now, whether it's in our families, whether it's on here, whether it's a researcher like Ryan, Cristian, or David Icke, or James Corbett, or Mark Passio, or Max Igan, or any of these people, or Jeff Berwick, the people that you know I prefer to watch, and send out links to all the time, or a friend, an uncle, you know, a neighbor, you know, co-worker, someone who is being that truth that they know to be, and contradicting what everyone else's behavior is, and taking the consequences, you know. To get that to be emulated, it needs to be seen, because most people are scared. They would never think that anything like this could be possible, could be going on. I will be sending my nephew videos and research, and hopefully, as my karma is to pass it on, he will take it in and then begin to pass it on himself to those in his circle, people in his family who I could never reach. You know what I mean? Or in his friend circle, or his wife's friend circle that I would never know. You know, that's why speaking the truth into existence and being that in your own life is so important. And anyone that would try to take that away from you is telling you the most basic human fundamental right to exist you don't have, and they have over you. Whether it's your stupid fucking dumb neighbor, whether it's an idiot in a uniform, or some dumb idiot in a podium calling himself the president or prime minister of a country. You know, whether it's a goofball in any of these agencies, to tell you that you don't have that right is to say they own you, and you will do what you're told. And I'm sorry for anyone who believes that, or thinks that, or does it, or ignores it going on around them. That is the key issue. And that is the issue that goes beyond the science. We could sit and have people say, well, that's debunked, when, you know, one thing the guy got wrong in his scientific research means everything else is wrong, because that's how people think. And they're going to say fake news, and they can tell themselves they don't have to understand this because they've been told on some other person's channel or some other a mainstream media network or by another friend that it's been debunked. You don't want to look silly and believe something that's been debunked, do you? No, you're right. It's their fault. Their fault. While that person, believing themselves to be all righteous and virtuous, is going along with the exact mindset, performing the exact actions that they want so that they can pit us all against each other and take our freedoms in the end, our freedom of choice, which is what freedom is. It's the ability to make choices, is it not? The consequences of those choices, having caused no harm to anyone else, would make that a right that you have to do and take. But the gods of this world are telling you, they will tell you what your rights are, and they will force upon you what they choose. And if you in your sick mind think that they can do that and that you have the right to do that to others, well, I don't know what to tell that person. But most people don't think that way. They're scared and afraid into thinking that way. And you never know what mind that you will open that can then blossom and seed into the opening of many other minds that you wouldn't have been able to reach because they don't like, you know, your the way you say things or your past behavior that they've wrongly judged, because one who never goes along to get along, who will always speak out for what is right, is often condemned by those that will stand by and watch and gossip and not get involved in anything where the result could be of consequence to their little ego or their situational, you know, standing at that point, whether it's at a sports game or a bar or you know, a school board meeting or even on fucking stupid Facebook book, you know. Their social stature could be at risk. So, you know, people need to see others doing the right thing, which is what I've tried to do in my life, my entire life, with everything I've done, whether I've been right or wrong. When you now know what is right, it's a hell of a lot more of a challenge to do. However, having done things like this throughout my entire life and standing for things where consequences may come my way, and they have and they do, negative ones, seemingly negative, but to me, sacrificing that moral fiber of what I know to be right and shutting my mouth would be worse than whatever bullshit someone could do to me, you know. So for me, this is the only way to be, but for others, they struggle with it. And for those of us that have the courage, the experience, the knowledge, and the willingness to have taken on that understanding of what is right and to stand in it, have the obligation to be that in the world, the more it is seen, the more you could affect other people that you don't even know you're affecting. which is why I do these videos that I really don't love doing. You know, I sometimes say things, again, I speak my mind, which can be a very good thing, but without a filter can also sometimes be, you know, a negative thing where, you know, you say things that, you know, I mean, really it's not, but I'm saying in this current situation that, you know, like earlier, telling you the negative things that would have happened on this trip per family member would cause grief and aggravation that I don't fucking need. There's stories in there, but really, you're not going to learn anything from that except to see how stupid people can be. So to filter that is not something that I want to do, but it's something that I'm doing. And the other side of it, the positive aspect of reaching someone, should be what's focused on anyway. But without thinking about it, I could have went into that story, is what I'm saying. So I don't mean it in a negative way. I just mean it comes with bullshit that you don't need. So pick your battles, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And if anybody were to get offended by anything I have said now, at this point, then that is their fucking problem. Because I have purposely tried to explain the point I wanted to explain in the best way that I could, as generally as I could. But my nephew deserves the credit of being known that's who it was. And I hope that he takes whatever information that sets him down a road of truth, because he wants to have a family and he wants them to be free and he wants them to have the experiences he's had, and he sees what the fuck is happening. His wife's a school teacher, for God's sakes. They see it and they hate it, you know. So if it can spark the fire that will light the courage, that will bring forth the action of righteous behavior in him, and then that can be seen by others, and maybe at that point make a change in other people's lives. So speaking the truth into existence is the only way out of this. And then, of course, living it yourself, and then those that understand it having to know the truth and live in it, not falling for the two-party paradigm, two-party illusion, religious division, racial division, division based on sexual preference, the absolute division war where they want everyone to be at odds with each other. Anything but coming together in the understanding of this ain't right. And if we think that living tracked and traced and listened to, which is what people that have gotten this miracle jab have had to do and agree to over the next 2 years, since they are an experiment, they need to track that experiment so they can get results, because they sure hasn't fucked done it yet in any kind of trials, even in animals, let alone humans. And they think that that's okay. Well, that's their choice. Ain't your choice to make for me. Ain't nobody's choice to fucking make for me but mine. Especially knowing that it's wrong, I will not comply with it. And in no way should anyone look at themselves and think they have the right to tell someone that they do have to comply to something. But again, that of course will be driven by fear, propaganda, and the pointing of the finger as to why things won't go back. It'll be our fault. And then those people can sit there and go, yeah, sure as fuck ain't my fault. It is their fault. And we will see the Barabbas Jesus parable once again. Will people pick Jesus this time? Or will they pick the evil, criminal, murderous, thieving state represented as Barabbas in that allegory? Or will they pick the sovereign, true, moral, self-understanding of what is right and how to live, the spiritual path of freedom as Jesus offered? Which, of course, if we all would do, as he said, could be more powerful than he ever could be. Because not only is this knowledge and understanding all around us, there's a hell of a lot more of us than in his time. But just believeth in himeth, and then you'll be fineth, I guess. Don't actually try to understand anything the fucking man said, because that might be too scary, you know? Sorry, I really don't have much patience for those kind of people that actually would pretend that just believing in him and all those kind of things, while they actually would wear a mask or accept this and not speak out or condemn anyone that is, remember when Jesus put on his mask and walked all around at 6-foot distance himself from that colony of lepers? Remember that story? Yeah, I don't fucking remember it either. You know what I mean? Sorry, that kind of blasphemy, which really is blasphemy in my opinion, annoys the shit out of me. Because those are the people that we need to understand these stories and take that into themselves and become it. Same way we need those people who can see what my nephew was seeing, but was going along with aspects of it to just go along to get along. And to make daily life easier, where what you're doing is really bringing it in, participating, and not making any difference into changing it, So, if anything, also a nice 4-day trip across the country with my family did turn out to be a very bonding experience. Beautiful mountains. I took a walk like this up there in one of the Arkansas mountains, and boy, it ain't like this fucking place, man. Rocks and creeks and fucking waterfalls and cliffs over huge. It was like fucking Rambo, the First Blood, the first movie. Man, it was fucking beautiful. But I didn't bring my camera, so sorry, I can't include any video shots. That as I was walking, I was thinking I couldn't do this if I was walking. I'd fall the fuck down. I mean, you had to jump rocks and all kind of things. It was like an obstacle course the whole way, but it was beautiful. I'm sure there's a place I could film in there and then walk a straight path. I'm just saying the path we took was just amazing. The world is beautiful. Of course, Arkansas is the natural state, is it not? At least it proclaims to be. I wish the people that live there, and again, I was only in Hot Springs, but man, every fucking where, man. Me and my kids were like, holy fuck nuts, gotta be shitting me. Like, I don't know what's worse, people just doing it to get their food and get out, or people that wear it everywhere, when they don't have to. Like, holy shit. And we, of course, are not used to not having to up here and not having people tell you to, as it was down there. So it was a nice break from the tyranny of up here, but boy, was there another visual tyranny, mind tyranny going on down there. So I guess at that, not to mention the, like I said, first video back out of YouTube detention. We'll see how long it lasts. Ryan Cristian, if you haven't heard, has been deplatformed on Patreon because, paying someone behind a paywall to view their content is dangerous. You gotta take that down because that's not the destruction of freedom in any way, right? People just ignoring most of the things. The economic situation, today, buying up of more and more debt. This morning, I believe. Not sure what happened all day. But I know as of this morning, there was quite the socialistic, fascistic scooping up and purchasing of more and more resources. Fed buying it all. Of course, the global aspect of the consequences for such being the central banks buying it all with dollars, which means it will all be owned by one entity, which this global cult wants and is doing, while they also filter in the climate change, while my sky is filled with straight lines and X's and shit that, looks like, I don't even know what the fuck. Looks like spider webs, The one place we walked into, just to finish up, one place we went to eat, they wanted temperature checks and masks on the way to the table. So I told my wife, we're not doing that, So she's like, all right, well, let me see what it is. She goes in, and she finds out, whatever. You can put your hand out to get your temperature check, and then you put your mask. So me and the kids walk in behind her, And they're standing there talking, the hostesses and stuff. So my daughter looks at me and says, and I look at her, let's go. And we just walked back to the table where we were. And as I told my wife, we won't have to do that, you know. My guardian angel does seem to appear in those situations. Sometimes not, sometimes argument and leave. Okay, that's fine. But in a situation like that, eating with her family, my wife was not, she didn't want that to happen. You know, and again, she knows it can very well happen and has happened. So I told her, you know, worst case, I'll just turn around and go sit in the damn car. And she didn't want that either, so it worked out. As it does when you're doing the right thing in the true understanding of what is right, truth has your back, God has your back, the universe has your back, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that. It can feel lonely, it can feel hopeless, it can feel... But these are understandings that when you come out of them, you process them, you actually come out wiser from. So if you trust in doing the right thing and you know you're doing it, and you know that in the end, whatever the consequences are, you're okay with, even if that means the leaving of this vessel, then you'll be here until it's time to no longer be here. Until the last chance of getting out of this, if the way it's going to go is negative, is no longer. And the consequences of the immoral behavior and actions and ignorance and apathy of allowing people to rule over you like this is, you know, impossible to turn around. Or you've affected the amount of change that you have chosen to, or were supposed to come and make. If you just believe in that, you'll be fine. You'll do what you need to do no matter what, because you'll trust in the truth. If you worry about shit and you look at the consequences, which I was trying to explain to my nephew, for speaking out as a negative thing, and don't see that not speaking out is actually way more negative consequences than anything they could throw at you, because you're taking away the actual future of your child to be free and to experience life as it is meant to be experienced. Weigh the two, and you'll know the right answer. So anyway, hope all is well. I'm going to post this. Like I said, we'll see how long I'm allowed to speak in front of the class. As you know, it's just so dangerous. But again, every time they do shit like that, they show you who they are, and they show you how powerful you are, what you can be by simply speaking what you know to be right. Common sense too, you know, and other people will see it's common sense, and it will spark other people to go. So the more they take down shit that I say, or other people like Ryan, who has researched and documented, and, you know, giving you all the information and links to check yourself, and they want to block him, they show you, you know, in the same way they've done it to David Icke and people that allow you to make your choice. The people that want to make that choice for you, want you to do what you're told, want everybody else to shut up. Well, I don't care if they speak. Why do they care if I speak? Well, guess where the truth falls in that? Because it isn't me. It's the truth being spoken through me that threatens everything. And when you realize that, you'll see that it just takes more of us to be that, because time's ticking. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Hope all is well. And if it doesn't, we're supposed to get rain tomorrow, so I might not do one tomorrow. But if it doesn't rain, maybe I will. If not, we'll do one over the weekend. Love you guys. Get learning. Get speaking.